Hey everybody, I am Carrie Ann Ryan, and I am going to be taking over the Kobo Writing Life Facebook page for a little bit. I know a few of you guys asked some questions, but first I figured I'd tell you a little bit about who I am, so you're wondering about who this woman is with the books behind her, and oddly a lot of wolves in the shot. I forgot there were so many wolves behind me. So hi, I'm Carrie Ann Ryan. I am the New York Times and USA Today bestselling author of contemporary and paranormal romance. My 66th book actually released on Tuesday, which is insane. I cannot believe I'm already at 66 books, but it has been, I started publishing in December of 2011, so that it's been a few years, and I write quickly, so that's probably why I have 66 books out in that small of a time frame. And but yeah, so I've been writing for a few years now, and with 66 books under my belt, sometimes it feels like I'm actually knowing what I'm doing, and other times I feel like I did on the first day when I don't know what I'm doing. And I think that is the idea of what it means to be an author. You can have one book out, or you can have 66, or you can have 200 like Nora Roberts and still feel like you're doing either the totally right thing, or you feel like you're making mistake after mistake. But that is what it's like being an author, and it's just taking step by step to make sure that you figure it out and you make the correct path for you. So I figured I'd tell you a little bit about who I was and then how I got started. So all of my books are all indie romance published. I didn't submit to a publisher, and I haven't yet, though it might, you never know, I might do it eventually. But the reason that I started indie publishing is back in 2011, they were starting out with these fun new ways to get your book out that wasn't through an agent and wasn't through a publisher. And there were many, many different ways to do indie publishing before that. But in 2011, it got a little bit easier. The technology and the access got a lot easier for authors, and I wanted to try it. And what I did was I wanted to be as professional as possible. So I hired an editor, and I hired a professional cover artist. And I read in my genre. I mean, I still read a book a day in romance. So I knew my genre, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And I knew the tropes, and I knew the series that I wanted to do. And so I did tons of research, and I ended up writing 3 books before I published. Well, I wrote a couple books before then that will never see the light of day. But I ended up writing 3 books before I published, so I could have a release schedule that wasn't based on waiting for me. And it ended up working out in which I could keep up with my own pace, and I enjoy what I do. But back in 2011, there was that option of just starting out in indie, and there weren't a lot of groups and things like that for you to get started and really learn how to do it. So we made a lot of mistakes. A lot of mistakes that a lot of my fellow authors made back then was, oh well, I'm a professional. I have an English degree, and in my case, I have a chemistry degree, so I totally know how to read papers. And a lot of people didn't hire editors, or they wanted to save money, so they made a cover themselves, and they had only used paint their whole lives, or they spent way too much money on a photo that they wanted on their cover when they didn't have any money for advertising at that point. And so things were a lot different than they are now, which makes me sound like I'm old and decrepit and waiting for the next phase. But things are different now than they were then. So I started indie publishing because it worked for me, and then I just kept doing it because it's working for me. Here, there is a question which goes with that, so let me... Okay, so Laura Granger asks, hi Carrie Ann, thanks so much for taking the time to do this. I'd love to hear about how you got started in self-publishing, and if you have any advice for people starting out. So the way I started was the fact that I wanted to see if I could do it. Like I said, I was a chemist. I was working at a university, and I was teaching, and I was finishing up my graduate degrees, and I picked up this book called Twilight, and I fell in love with this genre, and I wanted to write more in this genre. And in order for me to write more in this genre, I had to learn about it. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I didn't turn off the monitor. There we go. Sorry. So so I just practiced and I tried it, and I was on Twitter and I was talking with these amazing authors, and they're like, just pick up a pen or a keyboard or something and just try writing. And I did, and I fell in love with it. And I realized that while I loved chemistry, I loved writing more. And I still kept my chemistry job for like 2 years. So I didn't just quit the first day that my book came out. But so when I started, it was a little different. There weren't as many authors, and it wasn't as easy to indie publish. In fact, I was not on Kobo for, I think, the first year or two that I was writing, and which is only because Kobo Writing Life is relatively new in the indie world, and they are amazing. I love Kobo, and I love the people that work for Kobo. And so as soon as Kobo Writing Life opened up their interface, I joined. The same when I got an Apple so I could do other places. And so I always try to be direct. And so instead of using an aggregator, when Kobo Writing Life opened up, I went to it. And so now if you're just starting out, you have all these options. And if you're on this Kobo Writing Life page, I assume you're going to want to go wide because you want to be on Kobo like I am. And so if you're just starting out, I would truly understand what you're writing and why you're writing it. So look at the genre that you're in. I'm in romance, so I read a lot of romance, and there are different genres of romance. And so when I write those, so when I'm writing a contemporary romance, I actually don't read in contemporary when I'm writing contemporary. I read in contemporary when I'm writing paranormal or my other genres. That way I don't have any bleed through, but I'm also aware of what's going on in the market. And so if you're just starting out, I would make sure that you know what's going on in the market. And I write what I love, but I also write what pays my mortgage. So luckily, I'm able to write what I love and pay my mortgage, but sometimes that's not always going to happen. And so you have to know when you're first starting out, you're 99.9% not going to be that breakout that makes $1 million in a month. I mean, if you are, congratulations, and it's so happy to meet you, and I am so proud of you. But if you're like the rest of us, you're not going to be making that $1 million that first month, or maybe ever in your career, but you are doing something that you love. So when you're first starting out and you're going indie publishing, I would suggest you treat yourself as a professional and treat this as a business. So if you're first starting out and you have your book, you need it professionally edited. And by edited, I don't mean someone breaking apart your words and breaking apart your idea. Especially when you're first starting out, I would suggest a content editor, especially one who's been doing it for a while. They're not there to break you. And if that editor is there to break you, then you need to find a new editor. I've had to fire a couple editors in the past because they literally thought that their job as an editor was to put as much red on the page as possible, and that's not being an editor. An editor is trying to enhance what you have rather than breaking it down to make it what they think they need it to be. And so, especially when you're first starting out, I would suggest with a content editor and then a copy editor, which is going to look at your words and make sure that it makes sense grammatically. And yes, your characters may speak differently, especially if you're in a different genre than contemporary, but you need it to make sense. And then you need another set of eyes as a proofer. My editors and I read the book probably 12 times or so before I send it to another set of eyes, just to make sure, because it doesn't matter that I know my words, my editor knows my words, and we have been looking at this over and over again. You will make mistakes. So I know that it's scary thinking about the money that you need to spend on an editor, but they're one of the best things that you could possibly do is have a great editor. And I have a few editors that I can tell you about too, if you'd like, that I can put in the comments later with their Facebook pages that you can get in contact with. A cover artist is also something amazing. If you have the talent to do your own covers, I can do some of my own graphics, and it's taken me a few years, and I've taken a couple classes that I feel great with it. But the cover's the first thing that most people see. And so I would say have a professional cover, and one that you can, especially if you write series, to think about branding. So all of my books are branded in their series, branded in their genre, and branded as my name. So you can see behind me, I actually have, the green one is the one that came out on Tuesday. And so that's in the same series. So you can tell by the positioning of the people, the font, and the overlays. But then it's also branded as contemporary with what is hot in the market right now. And my name font on the bottom is always the same in all of my contemporary books. I actually do my paranormal ones a little bit differently. That way, if I don't stick a werewolf on the cover, that people realize that maybe that's a little bit different than a Montgomery Ink book. And so yeah, if I was just starting out, that's what I would be thinking of, is what people are going to see first and what are you going to want people to go into next. And I would make sure that you have all your little eggs in the basket. It's all the correct basket. So make sure that you have, you know where you're going to upload. You know what files that you need. You know if you're going to need a formatter. Have all these little steps done once you have your book. Because you are an author, you are a writer as you're writing. But you're not going to be a published author until you have that full book. So yeah, so that's if I was just starting out. It's actually a lot to think about. So, but I would think about trying to just, you're a business, you're a professional, think about what you want people to see and if you want people to keep with you for 66 books. So, hi, Laura, Ina or Iana, I'm not quite sure, I'm sorry, Marina, Karen, and yeah, so hi guys. Thank you guys so much for thinking my books are great. And okay, so what is my favorite book that I have written so far? Let's see, I have written a lot of books, and since I write in a lot of genres, it's really hard to pick. But I will say one of the first books that I ever wrote was called Shattered Emotions, and it was about my current favorite character of that time. And it was a paranormal romance, and it was just a lot of fun to write because everybody seemed to love this character. So it was really hard, especially as a writer, to want to write a book about someone that everyone loved, and you kept thinking, what if I'm doing it wrong? What if they're doing it wrong? And so being able to go back and be okay with making a mistake with this character really taught me that it's really okay that I'm allowed to do that. And what do I have coming out in the future? So I have a lot of books coming out in the future. If you don't know me, like I said, I write contemporary and paranormal romance, and my main series in contemporary is my Montgomery Ink series. So as a business person, I knew I wanted to write a contemporary series that had lots of connections. I love writing big families. That is something that I love reading. And so I knew I wanted to write that. And luckily, a lot of my readers love big families and love those connections. And so my initial series, the Denver Montgomery Ink series, it was a big family, 8 children, which is an insane amount of children. I just have one sister, and that's still a lot of family, which don't tell her I said that. So it was 8 siblings, and what I like to do is I also write trilogies or other series that aren't just this one family. But what I do is I want entry points for readers and for me. So all of my series are connected, even if they are all standalones. You can start on book 8 in the series, you can start on book 3 of a trilogy, it doesn't matter, but you can work your way around. But my idea is entry points. And so so all of my trilogies are spun off of the main series. So in book 5, you meet this guy named Jake Gallagher, and he has 3 brothers, and that's the Gallagher Brothers series. In book 6, you meet Tabby, and she has 3 brothers, and that's the Whiskey and Lie series. In Fallen Ink, which is the pink one, right here, Mace has 2 sisters, and 2 of those sisters and their girlfriend will be the Fracture Connection series next year that I just announced. And so I love writing series that connect. And so the idea is you can write the biggest family you want, or you can write the smallest family you want. But I want my readers to be able to bounce around, and I want them to find me today and start with Restless Ink and be like, wait, there are how many other series in this world? And if you go to my website, which is a professional website, carrieannryan.com, something I also suggest you have, they can move their way back. And so that's what I've been working on right now is Montgomery Ink. And then with my paranormal series, I've done a few paranormal series, but my big ones are the Redwood Pack and Talon Pack series, which are actually connected through a generation. So it was fun to go ahead 30 years with the Talon Pack series and see what happens when the children start to find happy ever afters. But all of this in mind was, when I did all of this, it was not only something fun I wanted to do for my readers and myself, it was also a business decision. I might write in 2 genres, but And not a lot of people can do that under one pen name. Sometimes they split their pen names, and people can do that. I was able to do 2 pen names because I keep my branding very, very separate. But I know some people would like to do 2 separate pen names for 2 genres, and it really works for them. I didn't like the extra work because I put a lot of work into the name Carrie Ann Ryan, which is my name, but I put a lot into work into her, and I don't want to split my focus. And that's just me. That doesn't have to be everybody. So, by the way, if you have any more questions, you can put them in the comments because I'm here for another 45 minutes or so. So let's see. Sorry, I'm making sure I get all of your questions because I was missing them earlier. Sorry. Okay, so I put a little poll up in which I really had like no idea what the questions should be, and I forgot I only had 2 spots. So it's like, what am I interested in talking about? Advice in publishing or my books? And most of you want advice in publishing, so that's what I'm here for, and that's what we're going to talk about. So Laura asks, as a writer, you have to wear a lot of different hats and work on everything from marketing to social media. How do you balance everything and stay sane? Well, thank you for thinking that I'm sane. Now, 3 years ago or so, my late husband and I had a talk, and we said that I needed to not overwhelm myself because I was getting a little overwhelmed with everyone saying, okay, you have to do a blog party. Okay, you have to do this many books a year, and they have to be connected like this. And then you have to do this type of social media, and then this type of social media, and the books have to be this long, and you have to do this much money with it. And it just added up over and over again, and it got really overwhelming. Like even earlier when I was talking about like editors and cover artists, it can get super overwhelming, and I don't. And so my late husband and I had a discussion in which I wasn't going to work weekends anymore. And I have not worked weekends since. He passed away last September, and I'm still doing that. I'm not working weekends, mostly to keep myself sane. And so that really helps. It's walking away from it. It's traveling if I can. It's playing a video game. It's making sure my house is clean. And we have 4 cats, so it's making sure my 4 cats are entertained. I have the door closed right now, so if you hear like banging, it's them trying to get in because they don't like to be taken away. But you still have to do marketing. You still have to do some social media. I'm not saying you have to do thousands of hours of it, but especially in this day and age, if you are your own publisher, you have to do a little bit. At least starting. And so I am a scheduler. I schedule out my month on a Google Calendar, and I write down exactly what I need to do for the month and for social media. And then every Sunday I'll put on a movie, and I'll eat some lunch, and I will schedule everything. And it takes less than an hour, and I schedule all of my social media. And then I don't have to come on and deal with it if I don't need to, because social media can be a drain, especially right now with everything going on in the news and with so many books out there every day, and the fact that sometimes you don't see it on Facebook, you have to go to the Pages feed. 1 second, sorry. Sorry, allergies. Anyway, so it can be super overwhelming, and so I schedule what I can, and I work out a marketing plan for a book, or if I have a month off without a book out, I work out what am I going to post for the day. So it can be a teaser Tuesday. It can be asking someone a question. It can be on Instagram, which I love using, which is something that inspires you. It can just be a book cover and you talking about your love for it. It can be talking about another book. But I schedule it all. I use Later for my Instagram scheduling, and it auto posts for you as long as you have a decent square. And that saved me so much time. I schedule directly on Facebook, and it works for me. I'm still on social media. I mean, as you can tell, I do some Facebook Lives, especially on release week. I'm on social media, but I'm not, and I have a Facebook group. That's pretty much where I go to most of the time. That's not scheduled, and I go in there and I interact with my readers. But it's when I want to, and it's when they want to. So it's not so overwhelming, and it does remind me that I love writing and I love hanging out with my readers. But there is a lot to do. And so I am the spreadsheet queen, and I schedule social media. I look at my budget for marketing and I split it up into what I need to, and I set it in stone, and then I'm done. And like for this book that came out on Tuesday, Restless Ink, I scheduled all of my boosts for Facebook, for BookBub, for Amazon ads. I scheduled all of that last month. And I scheduled all of my posts and everything. And even my newsletter, I scheduled it all so I wouldn't have to worry about it on release week if I was stressed out about something else. And it does take time, but you know, when I first started publishing, someone told me to write a list of what I do on each release day and make sure I keep to that list. And so I started off with a small to-do list, and then it got overwhelming, and then I pruned it down a bit. And so I have a release checklist that I go through, and I make sure that I have everything done so that way I'm not overwhelmed. And so to me, there's nothing better than highlighting something off or crossing something off. I even, when it gets too overwhelming, I have, if I can get this to work, if you can see, you can't see, anyway, I have a calendar underneath my keyboard here, and it's paper. And I do everything digitally, but sometimes I just want paper. And so I write down my total word count for the day on this piece of paper. And it just reminds me, by the end of the month, I have all these days filled. And it reminds me that sometimes I didn't get a lot of words in, but I tried. And sometimes I got a lot of words in, and it's okay. And so I learned that, yes, there's so much we can do, but if I remind myself that I actually did things, it's like a reward in itself. So I'm not so stressed out about what else I need to do. Yeah, so to be able to stay balanced is, no, I can't do everything. It took me 4 years into publishing, and I finally hired a publicist to help me with tours and other balancing things that it was just too much, especially when you have as many books as I do, and you're constantly working on backlists and things, and it's not just new releases. I can't just focus on the new release. I have 65 other books that need my attention, and then not to mention everything on pre-order and announcements for new series and things. So I have an assistant that helps me with conferences. I have an editor who is my lifeline and who I plot with, and then I have my publicist, and that takes money, and that takes knowing who you can work with, so that took time. So when I first started out and I had 1 to 10 books or so, I did everything on my own except for editing and doing my own graphics. But I didn't need 30 graphics. I just needed one, and then I just needed an excerpt, and I just needed to be able to talk to my readers. So you don't need to do every single thing you see everybody working. You start off small, and then you add what you can. And when you have the budget to hire help, you hire help. But just know that if you have 1 book or 2 books or 0 books and you're just starting, you do not need to do everything at once. The fact that I do a lot right now has taken 7 years of figuring out what works for me and what doesn't, and knowing that some things will change by the next release. And yes, I have a to-do list, and yes, I have scheduling and things, but it's taking me a while to get there, and you're okay if you're not there yet. You just need to slowly work your way towards it. So Tabitha asks, where are the cats? They are usually on here with you. Okay, I put them out. Like I said, I put them out of the room only because when I do Facebook Lives, I'm usually in my living room, and I'm on my laptop, and that's usually fine with the cats walking on me. But here I'm on my desktop, and if they accidentally unplug the computer, it ends it completely rather than like a laptop. So they are out. I gave them a treat, and they're outside of my office right now and upset with me, so I get to deal with 4 very upset cats once we're done with this. So, but yeah, I'm sorry they aren't here. Sorry. Let me make sure that I'm answering questions. Okay, so let's see. Yes, so I love doing a release checklist. So I would just write down what you need to do for a release, so that way you have it with you every time. And it's organic, it's going to change. How do you take the positive out of negative feedback? Meaning you don't let the nasties affect you, but maybe take on what they're saying to improve upon. So I don't read reviews. They're not for me, they're for other readers, so they can figure out if they want to read the book. That's one thing. This week, actually, it was really weird. I got 4 random weird messages where I got called really nasty names from other people. And it did affect me because I don't like being called nasty names. But what I did was I didn't go on Facebook and tag these people and go, how could you? And I didn't make it a huge thing. I made it personal in myself. And I said, okay, I need to step away from this book for a minute and these emails. And so I saved them just in case there's an issue later, because I have had a stalker in the past, 2 of them actually. And so I kept them in case I need to forward to the FBI again, because that's always a fun thing. But I tried not to let it affect me. When it did affect me, I tried to find my balance again. So I didn't work that day. I had to get my hair colored because my hair's blonde. If you saw my other photo, my hair's usually blonde. So we had to get the blonde roots away. And so I went and got my hair colored. I had lunch and I talked with my friends and I tried to remember that I am not the names that these people called me. So, but in terms of taking the positive out of negative, if you read a review or something and you see something that strikes a chord with you that you think that makes sense and I can work on it, then sure. I mean, I think it depends on the person. I've had to grow a thick skin in the past 7 years, and I had to grow a thick skin when I was working in graduate school for chemistry and being a very blonde woman that used to say y'all too much. So I've had to grow a thick skin over time with both of those things. And so I try to take the positive by knowing that I'm surrounded by good people and I have a really good circle, and that I'm not alone, even though I'm sitting alone in a house with 4 cats. So if you do happen to read reviews and you see something that you know that, hey, that's helpful and I can change it, go for it. But you don't have to change yourself for a review. If you believe in the book and you respected your characters and the people behind your characters, then you're okay. Yeah. Why do I go brunette and not red? The red stays longer and it just fades really weird, so I go with this color. So yeah, but no, that's why I go brunette with not red. I've been all colors. I've been hot pink, I've been blue. This is what I'm currently. But so I figured I'd talk a little bit about, while you guys are asking more questions, what I do with a book. Like, how does a life of one of my books work? So where am I? Okay, so I know what I'm going to write about 2 years in advance, like the title and the series and things. That's only because I'm weird, and that's only because, like I said before, my Montgomery Ink series is super connected. So when I'm looking at this book, so I'll know what series I want to do, and I sort of know the idea of the series, and I might know the trope of the book. So I'll know the title, and I might know the characters, but I don't know a lot about it yet, because that's a few months beforehand. And so Kobo allows for, I think, 18-month pre-orders. I do 12-month pre-orders only because because I release like 10 books a year, it gets a little crazy. So I like a year because that's a good mark for me. So I actually upload a placeholder cover and a placeholder book and a small blurb that's not the full blurb yet, up a year in advance. And that's when I do an announcement. And it's either a series announcement and a book announcement, or just a book announcement. And that's because I can schedule, and that's because I know I can do my deadlines. If you aren't sure you can reach your deadlines yet, don't put it up for pre-order unless you have the book out. And my sales do well with pre-orders. I'm a pre-order reader. I love the fact I love pre-orders. I have a calendar that's color-coded and a spreadsheet that's color-coded, knowing what books I've pre-ordered or not. And I love being able to open up my device and being like, wow, the book is right there. And I didn't have to remember to pre-order, buy it. I already did it. And so I train my readers to be pre-order readers because I put the links and everything. So if I'm going to announce a book, if I'm going to announce a new cover, if I'm going to announce a new series, you need a call to action. And that call to action for me is buy links. If you do not do pre-orders because you you're not sure you're going to make your deadline and your release date's tentative, your call to action is going to be your newsletter. not like your Facebook page or anything. It's going to be your newsletter, and add it to Goodreads. Those are the two main ones that you need to do for your call to action. And so that way, when you have your book out and your book on pre-order or release live, you can immediately let your readers know through Goodreads and your newsletter that, hey, here's the book. And so yeah, so Kobo actually is wonderful with the long pre-orders, and I can update my cover quite quickly, and I can update anything that I need quite quickly, including pricing and things. And you can, as soon as I have the full file and the cover, everything ready to go, and I usually have that around 3 months before release date, I click the enroll in the libraries, and that way it's on pre-order for Overdrive as well. So yeah, so I have a really busy schedule, and everything's color-coded on my calendar. But by color-coded, I mean I also have a spreadsheet that I have the book title, and then I have the date, the release date, 1 year prior, 9 months prior, 6 months prior, and 3 months prior. Like, those are the main dates for all the other places that you need to know. And then upload dates are also important. Okay, Roberta says, I'm working on rebranding. So I'm revising the earlier novels, but I've also just finished turning a short story into novella, and will soon have to start the next one. I apparently need reading glasses. I'm sorry, guys. I'd like to hear from you how to reach for more readers. Right? KU didn't work for me, so I'm trying to go back to wide next month, and I reach more readers on Kobo. So it's the KU versus wide, and it really just depends on the person. And the best way that I have found to find readers on Kobo is to put the links for Kobo in my posts and on my website. You have no idea how many posts I see that are just Amazon links. And even in my own ads, sometimes I'll do the actual ad with Amazon, but in the copy, I'll have Kobo, I'll have Google and iBooks and Barnes & Noble. I'll have all of those places. Print, Audible. Your audio readers need that Audible link. Or in my case, because I'm through Blackstone, as indie through Blackstone, I have audio on Kobo now. And I'll eventually have the Walmart links as soon as those go live for certain books. And so the best advice I can give you is share your links on Kobo. And make sure they're on your website. Make sure they're visible on your website. Make sure they're always in your newsletters. Make sure that they're in every single post, even if they're not on the post itself, because I know on Facebook sometimes it's easier to share words or an image and then put it in the comments. Put all the links in the comments, or just put your website landing page in the comments, and then make sure that on that page you have all the links. So let's see if I can do this well on Facebook Live. Sorry. Okay, so that's not what I wanted. I'm sorry. So if you look on my website, this is the order section of my latest book, Restless Ink. And so you see all of the links there. And it's a super easy landing part for everybody. It's one link, and then they can find where they are. Sometimes I put all the links because some people don't want to wait to click all of them. But, and I know it sounds silly that the easiest way for me to start with Kobo is to do links. Doing pre-orders, long-term pre-orders with Kobo has helped over time. So doing long-term pre-orders with Kobo, mentioning Kobo exists. I try not to only share Amazon links. Or if I want to do a giveaway, I don't give away Amazon gift cards. I give giveaway cards that can go to all of them, or just one place that's not Amazon. If you're doing a group giveaway and they want to give away a Kindle Fire, why not a Kobo tablet? Because I know there's the waterproof one. Why can't I think of the waterproof one? Kobo was the original waterproof tablet, I believe. And so it's training your readers to go to these other places that aren't just Amazon. And it's trying to find new readers. You can do a group giveaway. I know there's a lot of giveaways, or not even a group giveaway, a group promo in which everybody shares their Kobo links, or they talk about it. So, and another way that's really helpful for me is when we when you have your books out on Kobo, if you sign up for those promotions, promotions are wonderful. The box set promotions are really great over there. That I do really well there. That and the percentage off ones are nice. Having a first in the series free is wonderful on Kobo. They now will show you how many books per month you don't are downloaded free, which is great on the dashboard. So you can see exactly how many you sell, and then you can look at book 2 and book 3 and book 4 and see how it's going through, which is great. So sharing the link, having the link on your website, having the link in your newsletter, making sure that you're not all about Amazon in your giveaways, and doing promotions for it, and doing first in series free. So it just takes some time, and eventually it adds up, and eventually Kobo readers find you. It's just like with any place, they need to find you. And Amazon's also buys are getting harder to search through. That's how I used to find all of my books, and now I'm searching many, many different ways to find books. And so I actually don't read on Amazon anymore because I wanted to make sure that my readers weren't just on Amazon, so I moved over with them. So there we go. Can you talk a little bit in detail how you organize yourself? So I use Google Calendar for most things. And I have a calendar that's for social media. I have a calendar that is for due dates for books. I have a calendar that is for due dates of edits, release days, events that I'm traveling for, and blog tour things. And so I put it all in my calendar, and when you look at all of it, it looks insane because it's so many things at once, but I can piece through what I need. And then I also make sure that my dates are correct by putting in a spreadsheet and making sure the math makes sense. And that's easily sent to my publicist and things, so that way we're all on the same page. I also use Pacemaker for my word counts. I used to do it by hand, with a Google Calendar by hand, to try to figure out how many words per day I need. But pacemaker.press is amazing. And I can put in that, okay, this is a 75,000 word book, and I want to finish it by this day. And if I don't work weekends, how many words do I need to write per day? And it's beautiful and brilliant, and I love it. Yes, Walmart is working with Kobo now, and so that's why I meant because you couldn't get books digital in Walmart before, and so now I don't think Walmart does pre-orders. I hadn't been able to find them when I first looked. It's been a couple weeks, so I apologize. The people at Kobo would be able to tell you more, but I know Walmart doesn't do free either. So we are all new working with Walmart, so I don't have any advice for you other than making sure you put the Walmart link if you have it. What do you think about optimizing your pricing for different territories? I don't price higher in a territory because I think they're going to buy. I do price for VAT and things. So on the pricing page, I do go, if it's a $4.99 book, I make sure it's $4.99 in euros and in pounds as well. I make sure that it's $5.99 in Canada and $6.99 in Australia, and probably $7.99 in New Zealand. It depends on the rate of that day. But I do, actually, I'm not just saying it because I'm on the Facebook page. Kobo has probably the best up-to-date pricing for custom pricing. So I don't do automatic pricing for ones that are close to the dollar. For yen and things like that, I let them work on it because I don't know exactly what's the best one for that. But I do optimize pricing for different territories in terms of making sure they're at the 99 cents and up to the dollar. And Kobo has a wonderful, their recommended price go up to the dollar on that. So, and not just what it goes to. Sorry, my phone is getting like 8 text messages as I'm on this with you. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, let's see if I'm doing this right. I'm sorry. My apologies. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Okay, so where was I? So back to organizing those. So because I do year-long pre-orders, I have to be super organized on dates. And so right now I have my 2019 scheduled out for dates for uploading and dates for edits and dates for covers and things like that. And so, and dates for pre-orders, like I think in a couple weeks, I'm putting up my next year-long pre-order, and that's a completely new series. So I need to make sure that I have the like a placeholder cover, because you need placeholder covers if you don't want to show off the whole cover a year in advance. And so I have my graphic artist has her own spreadsheet that I tell her exactly when I need things done. And so it calms me to be organized and to organize myself. And I actually organize a few of my friends along the way. It calms me down. And so in order to be so far ahead, you do need to be organized. But and that's, like I said, it was making that release day and release week and release month to-do list in order for me to be able to do this all. So it's, when do I send out a BookBub alert? When do I do a first chapter reveal? When do I do a cover reveal? Things like that, which works for me and may not work the same for you guys. So if you do long-term pre-orders, I don't suggest doing the cover a year out in advance. I like to do mine like 3 months in advance, or if it's a whole new series, maybe book one 6 months in advance. It really just depends on the market at the time. And so, but if you're not a long-term pre-order person, things are completely different. And so I'm actually doing a series where I'm only going to have, I think, 6 months. And that's only for me, and that's a lot for some people. So it really just depends on what you're comfortable with. And this is for someone who writes like 10 books a year. And so I do a lot. And earlier someone was asking about being overwhelmed, and it's me writing it all down so I'm not overwhelmed. And I watch a lot of movies, and I take a lot of walks, and I listen to a lot of audiobooks. And I just remember that this is my job and it's my passion, but it's not the only thing that defines me. And it's okay that it's not the only thing that defines me. So, okay, sorry. I keep getting texts on my screen even though I turned it off, and so I apologize for that. Okay, any more questions while we're here? Sorry. And I'm sorry I'm not helpful with the how to get out of KU and go wide, other than just it's in for the long haul. And one thing I did mention was BookBub pre-order things. And so if you can get a BookBub, and I know that is price, like it's expensive, and so you have to have the money to do it. But there are smaller ones you can do, like free book season stuff. If you can, that's up to sales at that point. That isn't a new release. And so if you're able to get these newsletters that send out your sale book, that is a great way to get more Kobo readers, because they do go directly to Kobo readers rather than just, here's the Amazon link, now you can search on Kobo for the title. So I've been working with Kobo for a while now, and I've just found that the more that you mention them to your readers, the more likely they're going to find them. And the more that your covers stick to your brand in series and in genre and in who you are, the more it's going to stick. So here, 1 second. So what I mean by that is, so this is a paranormal book, and this is a contemporary book. They're both pink, but one is paranormal and one is contemporary. And this is Montgomery Ink Denver. And as you can tell, this has a wolf, and the letters are a little more paranormal. And my font is in my paranormal font versus my contemporary font, which is that. And so that's my branding. And then, so this is even a different series. This is also contemporary, as you can tell from, as you can tell from the fact, just from the lighting and the fonts and things, and it has my contemporary branding on it. And so, yeah, and ironically, I don't have a lot of pink covers, and I picked 3 things with pink on it. That's hilarious. But yeah, so when you're first starting out and you want to decide what you're working with and what genre you're going to work in, just make sure that you're consistent in your branding. And we're indie authors, and we can change it. These are all the original covers, but I have changed covers over time. I can get up and get it in a second if you'd like, but actually, like, where is it? here, that little cover you see in the back, a reader made me a coaster with my cover. That's actually the third cover of An Alpha's Path because I've changed it over time as I've learned. So, have I ever collaborated with another author on a book before? Is it something like I'd like to do in the future? I wrote a series called the Branded Pack series with Alexandra Ivy. It's a paranormal series. It's pretty dark. It's a trilogy, and there's 6 stories in it because we overlapped the way we were writing. It was so much fun. She is one of my favorite authors of all time. And being able to write with her was a dream come true. And I would like to do it in the future. I'm just a little booked right now, and finding someone that you can tie your life to is actually pretty hard. Because especially in indie romance where it's not just a publisher paying you half of it. You have to actually work it as a business and either create your own business and deal with taxes and deal with the fact that you are giving up part of yourself into this book because it's not your decision anymore. It's both of your decisions. And so I would like to do it in the future, but it would depend on the person and timing. So I mentioned different editors, and you plan on listening to that again. Okay, great. What are some things to look for when you find the editor for a newer writer? If you're working with a new editor, I would always do a sample. So you can request them to do a sample edit where they do a certain percentage, and then you can see how they edit. So if you're looking for a content editor, you're looking for someone who's not going to change your voice, but going to help you enhance it. And so someone who's going to be like, he had dark eyes up here when he was supposed to have light eyes, or are you sure you explained this person's job enough? Or you haven't described this person yet, which is sometimes, I forget sometimes to describe what the people look like because I just know them in my head and you're just supposed to know. And so I actually, before I even show it to my editor, I have to go through and I ask myself that question. And so, so for a content editor, you're going to want someone who doesn't change your voice, but really helps enhance your book. For a copy editor, you're going to want someone that does something more than just commas. And you're going to want someone who, when they're doing dialogue, doesn't change it all to proper grammar, if that makes sense. And so you're also going to want someone who understands that if you're writing a Canadian character, they're going to say something different than someone in America, etc. So if you're reading their edits back and it makes you feel violently ill, then they're probably not the editor for you. And I know that sounds weird, but I literally had an editor who I'd been working with, and she changed over time. And I literally sat in the bathtub sobbing because she made me feel like I was a horrible writer and the book was horrible. And my husband came in, he's like, you can't work with her anymore because you know what you're doing. And so I had to find someone else. And I love my editor now, and she's also my best friend. So that actually, it works. We're very good at disconnecting our professional and our personal lives, so that way I can be like, yeah, no, that's not going to work for me in an edit. Because you're allowed to say no, especially when you're on your own publisher. You're allowed to be like, no, that change doesn't make any sense. If you are looking for a copy editor, though, just message me and I can give you my copy editor because she's amazing. Let's see. So when I change genres, you change the way my name appears rather than having a pen name. Do I find that works well? And you're thinking of a series with a very different genre than normal and considered a pen name. So I was 25 books into paranormal romance and into this name when I first did it, when I changed to contemporary. And because I kept the heat levels the same, and because I find moving from paranormal to contemporary as a reader not that big of a jarring thing, I kept it. And but I'm also very aware that I had to be very clear on my branding, and not all of my readers moved over to contemporary, and not all of my contemporaries moved back to paranormal. If I were to go to another genre like mystery I would probably always keep my name no matter what, just because of what I've done with it so far, and because I like my name because I was born with it. But I have my newsletter split up into paranormal and contemporary, and if I did YA, I would have a separate newsletter for YA and a separate page for YA. and things like that. So it is a little extra work, and I had to be very clear, and especially, but moving paranormal to contemporary isn't that big of a thing. And it really just depends on what you want to do. If you want to have a pen name that that's not a secret, that you can always write Carrie Ann Ryan writing as, and then another name, that also works. And it's very, and a lot of people do that as well. But if you're completely changing your tone of writing, and not only the genre and the tone and the heat level, but it feels like it's a completely different person. Or if you want to try out a new genre in which you want new readers and you don't necessarily care if they jump over to old readers, then maybe a pen name would be for you. I like writing under one name, but I'm writing a new genre that I'm going to announce next month. And I'll let you know more about that later, but I can't really say anything. But I think it really just depends on who you are. I mean, I put a lot of work into making sure that I can move from paranormal to contemporary, and not just in the covers, but I made sure that even my tagline didn't say contemporary paranormal. It's irresistible characters, seductive romance. So it's characters, which is important to me. And so I made sure that my books have always been character first, no matter if they turn into a werewolf or are a tattoo artist, or if they're a tattoo artist that happens to be a werewolf. So it really just depends on what you're doing. It works well for me, knocking on wood, but it does not work well for everybody. And I know some, especially like Laura Kay, she writes as Laura Camoy for her historical fiction, because there's no romance at all in it. It's a completely different idea, but it's an open secret. So I can't really tell you what you should do, other than you should be aware of other options and why you want to keep it versus not keeping it. So, okay. And here we go. And I am going to quickly make sure that my family isn't like in a fire or something, because I just got 20 messages. Okay, no, they're all fine. They're talking about a football game, so I'll get back to them. Sorry, when my phone starts buzzing like that, I'm always afraid like there's something going on and I'm ignoring them for Facebook. So anyway, I have a couple more minutes, so I can probably answer a question or so. But in case you're just joining me at the end of this, I'm Carrie Ann Ryan. I have 66 books out. I am all indie. My foreign titles are actually through a publisher. I got a foreign agent, but I don't have an agent for my English titles. I do all my own audio, though I did hire Blackstone Publishing as a distributor for me for this past year, just to try out something, different for me, to try to get into libraries and to Kobo for audio, because right now ACX doesn't really allow that, but who knows, we'll see what happens in the next year or so. I am all wide except for one series that I'm trying in KU that will go back to being wide in a week, actually. But I wanted to try it, so I had data, because if you've been on this with me for the past 53 minutes, you know that I like spreadsheets and data. So I couldn't talk about KU without being in KU, so I needed to have data. And so yeah, so I've been doing this for a while, not just this Facebook thing, but I've been doing writing. That's horrible grammar, forget. I've been doing this publishing thing for a while, and I'm tired, so now you can see that I've been having trouble making words. But yeah, so if you're just starting out and wanting to be an author, the first thing I'm going to tell you is to read in your genre. Read in your genre and understand your genre. Don't come into the romance genre because you want money. That's not going to happen. You have to actually know what you're writing, and you have to love it. You have to love this genre you have to love your genre in order to write in it. And you don't have to love every aspect of that genre, but you have to be aware of what's going on in it. And in terms of the business, if you're going wide, you need to make sure that you go wide as possible. If you're not, go on every single place that you can. I mean, I do Kobo, and then there's, I think, Kobo Plus that go on a few places, so I do that. I do Overdrive through Kobo because it gets into libraries, and libraries are where I started. So it's a big thing for me. So So yeah, if your genre switch could be jarring, maybe an open secret could work perfectly for you. And you can even keep your pen name on the same page. I'm trying to think who, I mean, like me, Lauren Dane, Cynthia Eden, Jennifer Armentrout, we all keep our same names with no matter the genre we go in, but it's very open in the branding. But if your genre is very jarring and there's not, if you're starting in romance and there's not an itty bitty romance in anything, then the open secret pen name works for a lot of people. So I know you do a lot of work through RWA. Do you think it's important to connect with other authors online and events? Yes. My husband, this is going to get personal, but my husband died last September, almost a year ago next week, actually. And so I was like completely alone. And this genre not only helped me physically, but mentally and emotionally. And so it's important to have friends in real life, but it's also important to understand people that are in your community. And so not only did these people help me emotionally, it made me remember that, hey, I'm not alone and I can be an author again. And so if you have a local chapter for RWA, I would suggest at least trying it out. Not all chapters are created equally. Some are amazing, some still need some work. But I do not have a local chapter. So all of my RWA stuff is online and at the conference level and committee level. And so I love RWA now, especially for indie authors now. I did not like RWA a few years ago, and I've been open with RWA with that, just because it wasn't very open to everybody. And they're still working on being open to everybody. But working with other authors and having a community helps you find the steps that you need to take, and you're more likely not to make missteps. If you're ever online, you know that there's a lot of missteps that some people make. And if one person had been their friend to say, don't do that, maybe there wouldn't be as many missteps. And so having someone to bounce ideas off of, whether marketing-wise, cover-wise, if you're stuck in a rut, just the best advice I can give you is find your circle at your level and grow with them. Don't try to find people, don't try to make friends with people that you think are at a higher level with you just so you can network off of them. And don't push people away because you think they're beneath you, which it's weird that I have to say that, but it's totally true. And it's weird and it gets almost high schoolish, but just remember, find the people that you're starting with at the same part of your business and find mentors and work together, because there's enough room at the table for everyone and we can make this happen. So hi Cora, I know your name. Okay, I'm trying to get you can see me like trying to look. I remember meeting you at RWA as well. I'm glad that you think I'm sweet and kind. I'm usually exhausted at conferences because I'm bubbling around, so I'm glad that I made a good impression. So let's see. Sorry, my computer's not showing me everything until I scroll. But, you know, that's Facebook. But anyway, we're nearing the end. So I just wanted to say thank you guys for joining me on Kobo Writing Life. I can probably stop by and answer more questions if you joined in a little bit late, because I know we are in the middle of the workday on a Friday. And I did put on makeup for this, just so you guys don't see the scary deadline Carrie Ann, because that's the scary Carrie Ann. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I hope you guys remember that we're writing because we love it, and it is work and it is a business, but we started for a reason. So have a wonderful day, and if you have any more questions, I'll try to stop by and answer them in the comments. But I'm going to go check to see if my kittens are okay, because I've left them alone for an hour, and we all know how that can end. So have a wonderful day, and thank you guys for having me.